Hello and welcome to another episode of Connection Alchemy, where we turn your relationship garbage into relationship gold. I'm your host, Emma Buggy, and this is my friend, Andy Hicks.
Hello.
And I'm a relationship coach. Andy is a mindfulness coach. And what are we going to talk about today, Andy?
Today we're going to talk about friendship, and we wanted to talk about that because, well, we feel very appreciative of the friends that we have in our lives. We have been talking about how the biggest study that's ever been done on human happiness over the longest amount of time found that the number one factor in people's happiness that makes the biggest difference is their relationships. And we are also, as I'm sure we're all aware, in a loneliness epidemic. And they're saying that being lonely is worse for you than smoking. So we thought this would be a good topic to explore and talk about what we've done in our lives to get a group of friends that we like, that we appreciate, that we enjoy spending time with, how that wasn't always the case. Some things that help you to have good friendships in your life.
Yeah, exactly. And, also some of my clients, they talk about that wish for a deeper friendship, a friendship where they can really be met and understood, where it's different from someone to just hang out with, someone to tell your problems to, but it's that sense of like, we're really learning together, we're challenging each other, we're growing. It's that quality of friendship where I absolutely feel safe, that I can go to this person, not just to share what's on my mind and on my heart, but to actually expand myself in life. We are like family in a sense. And for me, what's really beautiful is the friendships that we have, this friendship circle that Andy and I are a part of. I have this sense that we really keep each other accountable, and we get excited about learning and growing together, don't we?
And we have a lot of fun. We're very silly.
We're very silly. We have a lot of fun, and there's a consistency there. And it's like I call this group my chosen family.
Sweet.
Yeah, and someone the other day was asking me, like, how come you have such an amazing group of friends? So I'd love to speak with gratitude about that amazing group of friends today, but also a little bit about how it hasn't always been the case for either of us.
Indeed, yeah. And also I wanted to add that it's often, this is a bit of a stereotype, but I think there is truth in it, that often men find it particularly difficult to have meaningful friendships. The stereotype of just going to watch the football together and getting drunk and just having banter, but not actually being honest with each other about how are you really feeling, how's your relationship going, how's work, and having these sort of like real conversations can be something that men often lack. So I just wanted to say that at the start, that especially relevant in fact, because I went to an all-boys school, which I'll say a bit about in a moment.
Yeah, and again, because perhaps for women, and we're being, again, stereotyping here, but it's just naturally more a part of our sense of community as we get together and we talk about life. And we're encouraged to speak about our emotions. It's safer for us to express our vulnerabilities together, whereas men are very often, or they have been historically, encouraged to shut up, don't show that you're feeling anything, don't be vulnerable, hide it, you've got to be tough and strong and so naturally we've ended up in this place where men are perhaps sharing a lot less than women are, and that is changing. We're seeing that there's men's groups and there's men coming together and sharing, but the reality is that there's still so many people out there, men, women, all genders, who are yearning for that depth, that real sense of home in their close relationships. So, Andy.
So, yes, let's dive into what it was like for us at school.
Oh, it's school! God, that cringy time. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay.
What was it like for you at school? What were your friendships like, Andy? If you're new to this podcast, or if you've been following us for a while, I'd love to ask you to hit the follow button and share it with people that you know in your network. The reason for that is that it really supports us to get this message out to more people, and that makes it more enjoyable for us to make the podcast episodes because we know that more people are hearing it, and it makes it more sustainable because it reaches a wider audience.
I didn't really have, for a while, any close friends. I had one friend who was like, I didn't feel that close to, but we hung out sometimes. And then later on at secondary school, there was another friend who we considered each other best friends.
Yeah.
But there was literally like I had one out of 120 boys.
So I imagine you must have felt quite lonely at that time.
Really, really lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a moment when I remember walking to rugby practice and I was like 12 and thinking, if I jumped in front of a car, no one would care.
Wow. Yeah. Suddenly feeling so alone that you have that thought, no one would notice if I walked out in front of a car. And I imagine that people listening can resonate with or understand or recognize some of that loneliness that comes up, even up until in adulthood, you know, like, yeah, maybe no one would notice. No one would miss me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I didn't have to think about it for too long to be like, well, of course they would, of course my family would, of course people at school would, but that I really had this sense of like apathy. People had this apathy indifferent towards me.
Yeah, towards you.
And then a few people being very hostile and bullying me physically, verbally.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really painful, difficult time. You know, some people say school is the happiest years of your life. It was not for me. And I don't think I benefited at all from being in that all boys, testosterone fueled, very competitive environment. I went to a mixed school for sixth form, and that felt like a huge relief to have girls. It felt like, I really sensed in the whole atmosphere that balance that having equal genders gave. And I had a group of friends. And they weren't people that I really felt close to and really connected to and felt like this is my tribe. But I was just like, thank God I've just got somebody. I've got a party to go to. I've got a friend who's inviting me to their house.
So then you weren't just, even though they weren't the people that you felt the closest to, you felt like you had some sense of belonging, you had options and choices and people that you could connect with.
Yes, but it felt to me like beggars can't be choosers. I don't get to choose.
You didn't get to choose who you wanted to be friends with.
No, which might sound a bit harsh to them because they were lovely people, but I just didn't feel this really strong connection. So
did you find yourself then like falling into connection just with the people who were there rather than those that you would have, like today you may have chosen friendships that perhaps meet you more in a sense of what you're interested in and how you like to discuss things, and you know, a real sense of camaraderie and closeness where you're mirroring each other, and like instead you just chose friendships that were friendly enough, safe enough, kind enough that you weren't alone in the world. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think today I'd be a lot more reflective of do I really enjoy spending time with this group of people, and at that time it's like they'll do. I'm just grateful to have anyone. Yeah. And so I'm wondering, after this reflection on your friendships from primary, secondary school, and then after that, what do you take away? What did you learn about the kinds of maybe patterns that you then got into in later life around friendships before meeting this group of friends that you have now? How did that influence your way of being in connection with people? Did it change anything in terms of how you showed up for yourself in connection to others?
The biggest impact that I think that time had is and I think that it's made me just swing completely the other way from having no friend, or only having one friend, to wanting everyone to be my friend. And to the point where I actually often feel a bit overwhelmed with how many people I'm trying to meet up with and stay in connection with, exchanging WhatsApps with, and organising when can we do this, when can we find a date to do this and that, and not always being discerning either, and having friendships, having hangouts where I'm thinking I'm not actually not so much recently. I've become better at being selective and being honest with myself and with the other person about who I want to spend time with. But for long periods of time, spending time with someone just because they want to spend time with me and I want them to like me back. I want them to like me, so I will just keep meeting up even if I'm not enjoying it, and just have too many people I'm trying to hang out with.
Yeah.
So I know I have an abundance now.
Yes.
But it's also like a different problem that I have to deal with.
Like I hear that now you have an abundance of people that you want to hang out with, and at the same time there's a refining process happening in you now as you wish to be more discerning around who you offer your time to, who you really spend time with, so that those friendships can really deepen, and also so that you're not stretching yourself in terms of your own time and energy resources, because that, like, it seems like it's like the boat has swung completely the other way.
Yeah.
And because now you've got all this option, it's like, in a sense, it's nourishing you, but it's not nourishing you because it's exhausting to keep up with.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting to keep up with because not every single one of those connections is exactly meeting you in the way that you'd like to be met.
Much more so now.
Much more so now than they were before.
But not so long ago.
Not so long ago.
Hanging out with people that I don't really... Yeah, and like a specific example would be a friend who, whenever we hung out, they would talk 90% of the time.
Ah, yes.
And every time I would say to my...
That's a familiar one.
Yeah, you know that one?
I know that, yes. Or maybe we have a similar pattern of being the listeners.
Attracting the talkers.
And also not speaking up.
Yeah.
Like just being like, oh yes, I'll listen to you because that's the only way that I'm worthy of being friends, and I'll just listen and not bring myself and not say anything and internally hate you.
Exactly. resent. Smile. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been a big thing that I've had to learn in friendships, is if that balance is for a lot of people it's just natural. They have a sense of, I've been talking for a while, I'll let them speak.
Yeah.
But not everyone has that. And not trusting myself, not daring to say, I feel like I'd quite like to have some space in this conversation.
Yeah.
Needing to learn that
Yes.
as an adult, which felt quite
been
uncomfortable.
tricky.
Yeah, I think I've definitely got better at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I still sometimes struggle with that. My struggle when that happens sometimes is that I know I want to bring myself in, but I actually don't know what it is that I want to talk about. It's like I almost want to just change the conversation and talk about something that's interesting for me. But because I'm so caught up in I've noticed that I need a change, I don't actually have something else I want to talk about. There's literally like no inspiration. So then I just sit there kind of lost for a moment going, I know what I do then in those situations, but I'm wondering if that comes up for you or if you've already found, yeah?
Yeah, I totally relate to that. All I can think of is another question to ask them.
Yes, exactly. We've become skilled at being curious, and that points back to childhood. I believe, at least in myself, it does.
And they're thinking, "Oh, great, they're interested. They keep asking me questions."
But it's not full interest. It's actually hiding the discomfort of, I would like the real response would be like, I'd love to bring myself into the conversation and talk about something about myself or that interests me, but I actually have no idea what to say.
Yes.
Are you willing to be with me just in the discomfort for a moment of just like, we don't know what to talk about.
I'd like to say something.
But I'd like to bring in my voice. I'd like for there to be a sense of like, I'm also sharing something. Yeah. I think the fear that comes up for me in moments like that, and there's another podcast on this, so we won't go into it. You can always go back to the episode on how to interrupt skillfully. But I think the fear that comes up for me in those moments is, will they be hurt or will they hate me? And that comes back again for me to childhood difficulties, where if I shared something that was important to me and I expressed my pain or I expressed my needs, I would sometimes experience a sense of disgust from the adult, that the adult looking at me would be disgusted, like, why are you bringing your thing?
Wow.
It's wrong. But it was in specific situations, and so then I've internalized this thing that it's not safe for me to speak up for what I need and to say, I would like to share. And on the other side, I actually grew up as a very, very, very outspoken, dramatic character. So like if I were to talk about my time at school, I had, and I'll be very brief here, but I had really, really, really close friends in primary school. I was like almost fighting for... I remember it being in the playground and there being like 3 kids on each side pulling my arms in different directions because they were from different friends group, and then they're like, she's our friend, she's our friend.
That's really sweet.
And it's sweet, but it felt uncomfortable. I was like, oh God, I just want to be friends with everyone. Yeah. And I think that was my character. It was like I wanted to be friends with everyone. Mm-hmm. But it was also because I was afraid of being disliked. Mm-hmm. And so in secondary school, it was very different. And I really picked friends where I could be the helper, where I just slid into this listening role. Mm-hmm. And very often I didn't feel met and understood or reflected back in any way by the people I was talking to. I felt lonely in the friendships.
Oh, wow.
It was like, I'm with you because you like me, but I'm not with you because I like you.
I can relate to that.
And that's actually ended up in being a pattern that I replicated itself in my relationships, in romantic relationships. Mm-hmm. And so with certain friendships and romantic relationships, I really got into this pattern of I will choose people that I perceive, and the word perceive is really important, as needing help, mm-hmm. or they have the potential to grow into some version of themselves that they haven't discovered yet. Mm-hmm. I feel sick saying this because it was all my analysis. It was like, I'll choose friends that I think need my kindness. Mm-hmm. And then I will give my kindness as a gift. Yeah. But the caveat is because then you'll need me. Then you'll never leave me. Yeah. I'll be worthy. I'll be important to you. Yeah. And that's where I get my sense of worthiness, belonging, and importance in the connection. And that was the most important thing for me. So that's why I ended up staying in relationships and friendships that were not nourishing me. I wasn't experiencing being heard. They were not asking me questions. I didn't feel met and understood. I didn't experience that they even knew who I am.
Wow.
It was like I was wearing a mask.
Wow.
Like, do you even really know Emma? Did I even really know Emma? So it's been like a life project to bring more of myself, my authenticity. It was like, no wonder one of the things I teach now is like authentic communication, because I need it so much, because I would hide myself underneath. And I want to say that with also, there were definitely parts of me that were very authentic. I was very outspoken and charismatic and joyful, and like I always had friendships, so it was never a case of not having friends, but it was more that element to it, the thing that I wasn't really receiving that resonance. And of course I always had some friends where I did feel met growing up, but I'm particularly focusing on those relationships that were not so nourishing for me, and that left a pain point in me, because they're the ones that had a negative impact on me in adult life.
Seems like we've got a lot in common.
It does.
Yeah, I think it took me quite a while to realise that is what I was doing. I think particularly with those friends that I was listening to, like you described, and sitting there resenting and not wanting to be there. That there is this really probably young part of me that wants to be loved and needed, valued. I'm important. You're not going to leave me because I'm offering you this value of listening or trying to help you in some way. But I also know deep down that I'm not enjoying this interaction on a sort of on a deeper level. This isn't feeding me, but I'm keeping it going because it is feeding something in me. Yeah. And I noticed that both, as you say, in romantic relationships, where I was in relationships with people that I didn't fully want to be with. I knew deep down they weren't quite right for me. oh, but they like me. They feel like it seems like they need me. Oh, I'm getting something from them.
You're getting that sense of being needed, which gives you a feeling of worth.
Yeah.
So then that's such a drug, because it was something that was perhaps missing in certain moments in childhood. And then it's like, that's such a drug.
Yeah.
That like it means that all the other stuff that's really screaming at you just gets ignored.
Yeah. Let's just tense up and carry on. The need to be needed.
Yes, the need to be needed. And of course, the shadow of this in me, I'll talk for myself, is that like when I go into that space of needing to be needed in a relationship or in a friendship, and I overextend myself and I overextend myself and I overextend myself, I'm always doing it for a selfish reason.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I believe the more I give to you and I give to this friendship, you're going to be giving me something in return. You're giving me the commitment, that experience of being loved, or at least the perceived loved, and therefore I overextend, even though it feels uncomfortable in me, because I hope I'm going to receive something back. And then when I don't receive something back, I resent and hate and get angry with the other person. So there's manipulation in that. And it's really not how I want to show up in relationships anymore. It's exhausting and heartbreaking for me and for the other person when we're in that space.
And from the outside, it looks like you're being a martyr.
Yeah.
You're giving and giving and giving. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Aren't they so generous?
Yes.
But if I don't get the appreciation that I'm expecting back as a kind of payment.
Yes.
What a bastard. What a bitch. I'm so...
Yeah.
It
And then
turns
they
into
get
anger.
surprised. They're like, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's like Jekyll and Hyde, I find.
Yes. So, we're finding ways to evolve out of it like that.
Yeah, and that's what I want to say. I'm so grateful for our friendship, because our friendship and the group of friends that we have, which is, expanding and evolving and changing, but there's like a solid group of good core friends that I really am so grateful for how we challenge each other, and we speak up when things are not congruent, and we ask for spicy feedback. Like, we ask each other, like, what is it that I'm doing that's like not so great in our friendship? What could I be doing differently? And we're able to hear each other in that, and hear the beauty in the other person's expression rather than getting self-defensive. In fact, I think we all get a bit like excited when we give each other spicy feedback, because we're like, oh, it's a chance to get closer, and it's a chance to grow and learn and become more in alignment with what my core values are, because I want to be a good friend. I want to be someone who's showing up in the best way that I can. I want you to know that you're valued. I want to be in alignment with what's important for me, which is I also want respect in my friendships. I want space for each person to speak and to matter.
Trust. Creates so much trust when you can give each other that kind of feedback.
Yeah, and then the depth comes, and it's like, this is really where I just feel, I feel close to tears now, but because the depth that's in our friendships is so there because we are doing those things. And it means that, like, what maybe you can speak for a bit, Andy. What are the kinds of things that we do in our friendship group that builds safety and closeness beyond the kind of communication side of things, do you think? Or that comes from having had that depth?
I will share that in a second. I just thought it might be interesting to... Can you give an example? It doesn't have to be something that was said to you, but like general example of what spicy feedback might look like. Yes, definitely I can. And I'm an open book, so I'm happy to share something that was given to me. Wonderful.
In fact, it's partly answering my own question, but within the friendship group, there's a group of us that get together once a month, and we teach each other different things. We're coaches and therapists, and we're all working within the fields that we want to sort of learn from each other. And we call that, I won't say the name of the day because it's just, you'll be like, why? Anyway, we do this once a month. And one of the sessions that I gave was on spicy feedback. I don't recommend doing this unless you've got a group of friends that you trust it's safe to do this with, by the way. So that's just a warning there. But if you feel safe with your friendship group, then go ahead. But it's taken from circling and authentic relating. And it's called Fly on the Wall. And one person is sitting on the other side of the room on the sofa, and the other people are sitting together. And that person says whether they want spicy, medium, mild, medium, or spicy feedback. And you can even say what area of your life you want feedback on, or if it's just general. And then the people who are together just talk about you as if you're not there.
Whoa, really?
And you sit there, and of course you can control, you can say I want more spicy, less spicy, I need a moment because I feel vulnerable. Again, this is why I wouldn't recommend doing this unless your friendship group are already into this sort of authentic relating thing, because we do this a lot, it means that we felt safe. But the feedback that I got, and I feel so ashamed to say it on a podcast, I got a few pieces, but the one I will share is that my clothing, the clothes that I wear, are not reflecting a sense of professionalism when I teach in my workshops. And I think you've maybe said it to me before as well, Andy, that, I'll turn up to a workshop with a hole in me leggings, or, I'll have some kind of little piece of fabric floating off me, and it's fine because that's my personality. I'm quite colourful. I like old rags and tags and bits of clothing. It kind of helps me to feel comfortable. But when I receive that feedback, it's first of all, you could say, well, that's a projection. And yes, there is projection in there. But the truth is that when I received that feedback, I was like, you know what? There is a sense of each time I put my clothes on before I go to a workshop or I teach, there's a feeling of frustration. And I look at my wardrobe and I just put whatever is most comfortable on because I'm going to teach. And I'm not actually feeling about what I feel comfortable in my skin to actually teach in. Do you know what I mean? The difference is I'm wearing what's the most comfortable to lounge around in, but I'm not wearing what feels comfortable to actually teach in. And even if I weren't to change my wardrobe, receiving the feedback, even if it's just from their perspective and it's their experience and I don't agree with it, which I have every right to disagree, it teaches me something around how are other people perceiving me. Can I be okay with criticism? Can I be all right with feeling the discomfort of they don't like the way that I look? Can I sit in that and still know that I am loved by them? Can I love myself even if I'm annoyed with them? That is for me the place where so much growth happens in receiving spicy feedback.
I'm very in awe of the fact that you're willing to say it on the podcast and just be open, even though it feels uncomfortable, and that you can have...
I'm worried people are going to look at my clothes and go, oh yeah, she's not,
They look shit. This is quite a nice shirt.
Yes, well, I'm trying. Making an effort.
But I think I've never done this spicy feedback exercise, and it's, to me, imagining it, I was like, oh, that sounds really scary. What would they say about me for spicy? And I'm just watching it happening.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what an incredible level of trust that you have with each other to do this, and to know that it's going to, that they are willing to be open and say some things that are really honest, that might be a bit painful, and you're all willing to be the fly on the wall that's just, okay, I'm going to open my ears to receive
yes
critical things about me as a person, It's amazing that you do that with each other.
And to be able to be discerning, like what am I going to take in as something that I actually want to learn from? Because there were other things, but I don't feel necessarily comfortable sharing.
You don't want to give us all of them, Emma.
I don't want to give you all of them. I'm going to keep some of my privacy. I gave you the lightest one.
Emma, this podcast is about monetizing our privacy. We have to share all of it.
It's about monetizing it. I didn't realise that was the goal of the podcast. I'll change what I share from now on. Tell you all my deepest secrets. But what was I saying? Yeah, it was. It's not that receiving feedback is not about saying I now believe everything that you say about me as true about me. Like what makes us able to do that is we've learned the skills to be able to see that every expression from another person is an expression of their own needs, their own experience being expressed through words, through judgments, through whatever. So I could also argue that spicy feedback is just, always talking about the other people. It's not talking about me. And I like to hold that with an openness to learning about myself and being curious and seeing where does it touch an ouch? Because if it touches an ouch, it might be touching something real. And if it's touching something real, where in me is there a willingness to learn and grow? And that trust that is built over, a long time in our friendship where we have constantly come back to these practices and learning together and being vulnerable together. And so I guess I wonder, Andy, if you would like to say something about what do you think has changed in you in order to be open to the depths of friendship that you have right now? Like, what is it that you now hold? What are certain discernments that you hold within yourself towards yourself and towards the other that helps you kind of be in friendships that are really meeting you in that place of depth?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is becoming less afraid of people's reactions. So there's this big part of me, a big driver in my life is the people pleaser.
Yeah.
That wants a positive reaction from everyone all the time. And that said to Kate, my partner, when we first moved in together, just so you know, I like lots of praise and no criticism.
Great! Me too.
Just worship everything I do.
Just worship me. Lots of praise, no criticism, no matter what I do. Yeah.
First thing when I would get out of bed, kiss my feet, and then we'll go on from there.
I'm imagining that she wasn't too keen on that.
She wasn't up for it. She
wasn't up for it. Oh,
no.
Damn!
Can you believe it?
Oh, God, well, at least you tried.
Yeah, I spoke my truth.
You spoke your truth. You asked for what your dream was. My dream is that you just never criticise anything that I do.
Just tell me I'm amazing. and so that is genuinely what the people pleaser wants, but there's another part of me that knows that would never be an authentic relationship, and I want an authentic relationship. I want a partner who's honest with me and says when imagine I made this meal and she hated it and she just forced it down, saying, this is delicious, because she was so afraid of my reaction, and she had to give me positive feedback about everything. I'd hate that. I'd be like, why didn't you tell me you didn't like it?
Yeah.
Fortunately, she's never like that. She's not that. She'll immediately say, this is tasteless.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
She expresses what
she's honest.
That's great.
Which is actually what I prefer. But there is a part of me that doesn't like it. That feels, oh no, I'm being criticised. I'm not getting a negative reaction from somebody, and it means I'm not good enough. And so I have over time with my partner and with my friends, I feel, become stronger or more resilient, more able to deal with someone not liking something that I'm saying. And sometimes it's just risking that they might not like it. Yeah. So I'm worried that if I say, for example, I feel like when we have a conversation, you speak a lot more than me. Worrying they're going to get angry or upset or whatever, so I don't say it. Yeah,
because you're afraid.
I'm afraid of their reaction.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking of a relatively recent time where I did this. He was fine about it. He was completely fine. Oh, thanks for telling me. I appreciate your honesty. So it's over time gaining the confidence, I suppose, to be able to be more honest about how I feel, what I want, what I need. Whereas before, the people pleaser was so much stronger, and we'd just be like, "Oh yes, it's all wonderful and everything." I have no criticism of anything anyone does, in case that's uncomfortable for them to receive, and then it's uncomfortable for me that they're uncomfortable. So it's better to just say everything you do is great, and I don't have any feelings, I don't have any needs. So that's, I think, one of the big things that's changed, and that means that I can enjoy relationships more. Because when I wasn't being honest with people in the past, it would mean that I might be spending a lot of time with someone and feeling uncomfortable, feeling tense, resentful.
Yeah.
Just I'm not being myself for fear of how they're going to react.
So if I could sort of summarize what I hear that you've learned or that you're doing differently, is how to be okay with the possibility that other people will be upset with you, and therefore bringing yourself more honestly when you're feeling uncomfortable, so that you're not hiding behind that kind of resentment and actually bringing more of yourself into the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, willing to take that risk that they might be upset.
Yeah.
Realising that even if they are, it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Brilliant.
Which is something I think that, would you agree that it's something that you're pretty good at these days?
Oh, well. I think I resonate with everything that you said there. I wouldn't judge myself as pretty good at. It's a work in progress, because there's definitely still times when I do that. Yeah, like I still do it, but I'm better at speaking up when I'm in that situation than I ever was before. And maybe speaking from the other side of the coin, as maybe, because I'm imagining there might be some listeners who are like, I don't care what people think of me. Like, that's just not me at all. This is not my issue. That's I'll just say what I feel. So I also have a part of me in the past, particularly in relationships and less so in friendships, but, in some friendships it came up, that could be a bit more critical. And that would just, rather than, it came from that resentment space. And so rather than expressing what's really vulnerably going on for me, such as I'm just going to mention something that happened with an ex-partner, but this could happen in a friendship, right? Where we were building something together, and we'd been speaking about this building project for ages, and we were planning it and everything. And we got to the actual making, and the other person wanted to use the drill and have a go. And I was like, great, you have a go. And then they were getting upset when they weren't getting it right, and they were getting frustrated. And rather than, I tried to coach them here and there to support them. But then they decided that they didn't want to do it anymore because they didn't enjoy the drilling. And so I was doing the building on my own, and they went and did the cooking. And I just criticized them. I was just like, yeah, you're just lazy. You just want me to do all of the work. You can't be bothered. You don't want to help out. So there's the other side of the coin of either people pleasing or becoming very judgmental and critical. And I think what has made my ability to have stronger, deeper connections and friendships now is really fine-tuning the skill of, when I'm frustrated or annoyed or feeling disconnected or pissed off with someone, what's really going on for me, so that I can express my vulnerability. So in that situation, it would have been, I'm frustrated because we said we were going to do this together, and now I don't know how to do it on my own, and I really need support, and I want to know that you care about the fact that I'm trying to do it on my own. Can you just give me 5 minutes of attention when I work out who else can help me build this thing, if you're not going to do it with me? Or do you want to do 5 minutes of just learning how to use the drill together and then see if you'd like to do it? Or is there something that I'm saying that's making you uncomfortable with the drill? All of that could have come if I were to sit with the reason that I'm feeling frustrated is because something more vulnerable is going on for me underneath. And I think that's changed a lot the quality of my friendships, because otherwise, if I'm going out into the world just being either a people pleaser or a criticizer, then again that authenticity is not being met, and then the people I attract are not meeting me as Emma. They're meeting me as the perceived Emma, the Emma with a mask.
Yeah. So is it that you've got more self-awareness to know what's actually going on for you underneath the urge to say you're doing it wrong, you're selfish?
Yes.
And also the courage to be vulnerable. And once you are aware of what's the reality of how you're feeling, I don't want some support, I'm feeling frustrated, I want you to help me with this. Yeah. Having the courage to communicate vulnerably with people.
Yes. And again, it's still a work in progress.
We're not claiming to be perfect.
No, not claiming to be perfect. But I would say that comes a lot more at ease with the friends that we have in this group. I feel like I trust everyone I can come to with anything that I need, and it's easy to express those things.
And they're friends that make it easy.
They are friends that make it easy. But again, I do believe that that's a direct reflection of where you're at. It's like whatever I'm giving out into the world is reflected back to me. So if I'm giving out that sense of honesty, openness, empathy, kindness, and direct kind of feedback, then I'm receiving that back in my life.
Totally.
And if I'm surrounded by people that are being really judgmental and really frustrated and angry and sort of bitching behind my back and that kind of thing, my guess is that there's an element of me that's doing something like that, or that is attracting that.
Totally. So we have to take some responsibility when we're in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of this episode. Is there anything that feels really important to say before we wrap up?
Yeah. I guess I would love to leave listeners with the questions that I might ask myself if I want to attract more friendships that are meeting me where I'm at is, firstly, what is it that I'm getting out of staying in friendships that are no longer nourishing for me? If there's a friendship that I have that's really like, I'm just not enjoying myself, there's nothing fun about this, I'm dreading meeting up, then what is it that I get out of staying in this? What is it that it's meeting in me that's making me stay? And are there other ways that I can meet that need that allow me to let go of this friendship? And then the other question is, if you're in a friendship that that you do care about and you do want to nourish and stay in and make it more deep and connecting and beautiful for you, is where am I not showing up for myself fully in this friendship? Where am I hiding parts of who I am? And what would I actually, truly, honestly want to say in those moments, in those situations? And perhaps just write it down. Doesn't mean that you're even going to say it, but just what am I not saying and what would I really like to say in order to bring myself more fully?
Yeah, I think those are really good questions for helping you to have more meaningful, satisfying friendships, because I think we could all improve. We could all have deeper relationships with each other. We could all be more authentic, more honest, maybe even more appreciative of each other. So yeah, I think it's a great question, Emma.
Anything you would add?
I think two's enough.
Two's enough, yeah. Don't overwhelm with questions.
No, and maybe we could write them out in the notes, the podcast notes as well.
Yeah, we'll do that. If you're new to this podcast, or if you've been following us for a while, I'd love to ask you to hit the follow button and share it with people that you know in your network. The reason for that is that it really supports us to get this message out to more people, and that makes it more enjoyable for us to make the podcast episodes because we know that more people are hearing it, and it makes it more sustainable because it reaches a wider audience. And we'll see you again soon.
See you next time. Bye.